Hey guys, welcome to Bookish Islander. My name is Juan and today we're gonna talk about Jane Eyre, one of my all-time favorite novels. Jane Eyre was written by the English author Charlotte Brontë, and as everyone knows, Charlotte Brontë was part of a group of sisters who all wrote fiction. The other two sisters are Anne and Emily. Emily, of course, is famous for having written Wuthering Heights. Charlotte Bronte's most famous novel is Jane Eyre, but she's also well known for having written Villette. Jane Eyre was first published in 1847 under the pseudonym of Currer Bell, and the full original title was Jane Eyre, an Autobiography. As can be expected from that title or from that subtitle, an autobiography, Jane Eyre is told from a first-person position. And as always with first-person narratives, we just get one point of view, and that point of view is Jane's. But the advantage of this is that we really get to know Jane very deeply. Jane begins by telling us a sad story of her childhood, and indeed she has a very sad childhood. Her parents are dead, that's what we know at the beginning of the novel, so she's been sent off to live with her uncle and his horrible family. The uncle likes her well enough, but her aunt and her cousins hate her guts. And things only get worse for Jane when her uncle dies, so her aunt and her cousins from that moment on make her life complete and utter hell. They downright abuse her and they blame her for everything. They punish her at the earliest chance they get. But even though her childhood is sad and horrible, and many things will happen to this character throughout the novel, I think it would be a huge mistake to think of Jane as a victim, mostly because she has a very strong character and forthright personality, and she knows how to stand her own ground even from childhood. And it is because of her attitude that she's finally sent off to an institution. Her aunt can't deal with her anymore, so she sends her off to an orphanage. But far from feeling bad about this, Jane is actually looking forward to going there. She sees it as a relief. She no longer has to live with her horrible aunt and her cousins, and she even makes a few new friends there. But life at Lowood is not easy, it's no picnic. For one thing, there is this typhoid going around that kills a lot of the students, including Jane's friend. And it's interesting to notice here that Charlotte Brontë took a lot of details from her own life and included them in Jane Eyre. And that episode, that typhoid episode, is one of the things that she took from her own life, because even though obviously Charlotte Brontë did not go to an orphanage, she went to a boarding school, and something like this actually happened. It's been recorded. Anyway, years go by and Jane becomes a teacher. She actually becomes a teacher there at the institution. But one day, she decides that she's had enough, she's bored. I mean, her life, as horrible as it's been, or sad at least, has been incredibly sheltered. She knows nothing of the world, and she wants to know. She's thirsty to know England and to know the world. So what she decides to do is to write an ad and put it out on a paper. She asks for work, but she has no faith that this ad will yield any results. So she's hugely surprised when she actually hears back. And actually she gets hired to be a governess. And this, not the governess part, but being a teacher, is also something else that Charlotte Brontë drew from her own life, because as we also know, she was a teacher for a while. So off Jane goes to Thornfield Hall, this huge Gothic mansion where she's charged with educating or teaching this French girl, Adèle Varens. But Adèle Varens isn't so much a character, she's more of a compendium of all the things that Charlotte Brontë apparently hated about France. Adèle is just a cliché, it's one of the biggest clichés of a French person ever in English literature. Adèle is just a bad stereotype of a French person, and it is clear to me that Charlotte Brontë did not know what to do with her. She's just there as a stereotype, like I said, so she could express her hatred and how little she thought of France at the time, but also it was there as a plot point to enable the first meeting between Mr. Rochester and Jane Eyre. So yes, eventually Mr. Rochester and Jane Eyre meet, and although their first meeting is rough as hell, they soon start to get along. I mean, she enjoys teasing her, but she always takes it on her stride, and they get along, and very soon they fall in love. And this is actually where I'm gonna stop with the plot. I haven't really spoiled much. This is just really the setup for the whole story. I've just made an extremely brief summary of the first few chapters. If I have managed somehow to pique your interest in this novel, you should just pick it up and read on for yourself. An interesting thing about the novel is that both Mr. Rochester and Jane Eyre are not described as attractive characters in any way. Not only are they not physically attractive, for instance, I mean, Jane is just a plain Jane, if you excuse the bad joke. And Mr. Rochester is just a rude asshole who just enjoys teasing and mortifying poor Jane. In Thornfield, the place where they meet, where love flourishes, is, like I said, a Gothic mansion. And like every good Gothic mansion in literature ever, a lot of weird shit happens there. A lot of odd things happen all the time, weird noises coming down from the attic, you name it. Strange occurrence all around. But there is a very rational explanation for everything weird that happens in Thornfield. And if you're interested in that aspect of the novel, I suggest you read a 20th century novel, Why Sargasso Sea, by Jean Rice. This novel is the anti-colonial response to Jane Eyre. And if you want to know why Jane Eyre needed an anti-colonial response, you should definitely pay attention when you read or reread Jane Eyre to everything that comes out from the attic and think about it. And then when you've thought about it and paid attention to it and finished Jane Eyre, you should pick up Why Sargasso Sea. Like many Victorian novels, Jane Eyre is full of plot twists and mysteries. Some of them, I'll admit, and I'm talking about one of my favorite books, but some of those plot twists are extremely far-fetched, too many coincidences and so on, but that's something that if you've read Victorian novels you're probably used to by now. And I actually think that those plot twists are what make the novel so interesting and so engaging, and I think they're one of the main reasons why the book continues to be popular to this day. I mean, at least to me, Jane Eyre is a hugely entertaining book. So this is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. If you have read it or you want to read it, please let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again very soon. Bye bye.